So today we are going to understand what is ledger in blockchain. Okay, right now what happens is, for example, I'm just going to draw a database. Okay? How we are storing how we are storing the data into the database. We are storing into the table. Okay, so it stores as a rows and columns. Sorry for this diagram, but just for understanding, you can see row and column. So we store it on row and whereas in blockchain we don't store it in the rows and columns. We will in, store it as a blocks. Okay. So here if you see, so I will just try to draw the graphical representation, which will help you to understand. Just I'm picking. So if you see here, blockchain stores like this. So every data will be a block. My block seems to be different shapes. So I hope you will understand that I'm trying to really create a block like a structure. So if you see here, right, each block is connected. Okay. So in whereas in database we call this as table. Okay. In blockchain we call it as ledger. Ledger is where the date where the blocks has been stored. For example, where where the if you see where the blocks are stored. So why this is called as ledger? Because in the olden days, as I also informed previous video, the ledger in schools and banks, if you see some people who comes in the morning to office and who leaves it back in the olden days when there was no computer, they used to get sign in the lecture. Says ledger, it is it says like who has come inside, who has forwarded. If there is any issues, they will take the ledger and see which person is came to the office at 9 o'clock and what time he has left the office. Then everyone came to the office or so it's a common word. It's not related to blockchain. It's a ledger. But ledger always have the trusted data or important data, right? So we will call it as rough book, notebook, question bank, a lot of names depending upon the use cases. We won't call everything as a ledger. We won't call everything as a book or everything as a no. We have a name for each and specific. Even though everything is printed in papers and we have information, we have something called checkbook. We call something as no project book, and we some call textbooks. But this something called as a ledger, which indicates there are some information written and it has some sensitive data who has come in, who has gone. So this is so what is what why ledger is different from table. Okay, that we are going to see now. If you see table, what we need here is this. Here we need to have access to the database, right? So we need access to the database DB, right? But here we we need authentication with the node. So we don't able to directly access this ledger. We don't have direct access to the ledger. Okay, no direct access to ledger. So that's why we don't have no here in who do the who make the data, delete the data or put the data. Here it is admin, but whereas in blockchain there is no administrator concept. Okay, there is no someone who can administrator or a super user. Okay, there is no super user concept in blockchain. That's why we call this ledger as a trusted technology, because there is no administrator kind of database and there is no super user or someone. So we need to authenticate with the node and this ledger. In this ledger technology, what you need to understand is this ledger will be sync up with, so this ledger, the same ledger will be sync up with multiple nodes. Okay, say node 1. So node 2 is a different server and different infrastructure altogether. We have node 2. Okay, we have something called node 3. So we have something called node 4. Okay, this is called as blockchain network. This is called as blockchain network or node network. So everyone in the network access the same ledger. Okay, every everyone in the network access the same ledger. So that is why it is called as DLT, distributor, because this ledger is distributor ledger technology. Okay, it's a distributed ledger basically. And if what happens if one node is failed, means one node is failed in this network, you can sync up with other node. No other node in the, if this node is failed, you can bring back the entire ledger from this node to this node. You can recover your node. Okay, you can recover your node from uh, recover your node from another node in the network. So this is how the block, no, the uh, network works. So everyone see the same data. That is where it is the trust. I call it as trust, right? Everyone see the same data. Everyone see the same data because it's the same ledger, right? But whereas in database, whoever is accessing this database, they need access to database. Okay, access and access and roles basically. Access and roles to database if you want to share same DB, right? If you want to have the same DB, then you need to provide them the access and but it's not secure if you share it in different network, right? If it is the same network, it is fine. But it's a different network, it is not possible basically. So what you will try to do, you will create another database and you can have a database cluster or something. Okay, another database but this is different and this is different, right? So admin can change here and there is admin over here. But whereas in ledger technology for authentication, we use this certificate authentication. We use certificate authentication. Okay, this certification authentication method helps each one to basically help each one to basically interact with each other. This no, this makes this even you are in different network, these nodes are being authenticated with certificate and connects to it. So I hope this will give a fair idea about ledger technology, how it is different from other databases. To no recap your no to have a no recap, I will just explain. So even you set multiple nodes or multiple servers, so who is doing the same business, who are seeing the same data, they can have the data written and in same ledger instead of having multiple copies of database. Okay, so this duplication of database or duplication of data is not required, and they use this ledger. And if this, since the ledger is sent with the different nodes, this is called distributed ledger technology as well. And if you need to want to see the ledger, you want a copy of ledger, you need to set up a node. So they need a node authentication, or you should be the peer for this node. And once you have set up your node, you can able to access the ledger. You cannot directly get access to the ledger. you can get access to the ledger if you are part of the same node organization. So, and there is no admin or super user concept here. If you try to change the block, it will go for validation with all the parties. Like if you try to edit the data or try to put a new data or try to delete the data, based on the smart contract or in any kind of modifications, it will, if node 1 is doing some data change, it will trigger validation to node 3 node. So why? Because basically they all are using the same ledger. Okay, they all are using the same ledger, and if something goes wrong here, so I am also writing in the same book and you are also writing the same book, so I knows you what you are doing and you knows what I am doing. That is what blockchain is doing. It's giving trust and transparency. So this increases trust and transparency between the parties. So that is why we use blockchain. If your use case really needs some trusted source of database to reduce some other fraud activities or to reduce no, something happened for the consumer or something else. So I understand this fairly makes you understand what is the ledger and what is how the blockchain, the ledger works, and why it is very important. And there is something called distributed ledger technology itself, which they use this part without hi-fi smart contract or something. People use this ledger technology to the use cases, how it helps their business to grow or how it keeps their business growing. So thanks for watching, and you can do subscribe and follow me and to encourage me to put more videos. Thank you for watching.